In this tutorial, we're going to look at what is perhaps one of the most powerful features in all of Autograph, and that is using external sources to control data inside of Autograph, specifically using spreadsheets to control parameters inside of Autograph. Now, to be very honest with you, I was intimidated by this feature because I don't like spreadsheets or data. I like pretty colors and things like that. And so I was intimidated by it because it just didn't sound like it's something that I would be able to easily understand. And I've been absolutely blown away by how powerful it is and how easy it is to set up. And this lower third here is filled with spreadsheet data so that all of these things, the teams and everything else, can be controlled with a spreadsheet. And to show you just how easy this is, we're going to start from scratch, an empty composition, just so it's very clear exactly how easy this is. I'm going to press Shift Q, as it says here, to add a generator layer, and I'm going to create a text. And I want this text to be controlled by an external spreadsheet. Now, my text is black. That's not going to work very well. So let me make this white, and I'll go ahead and make it bigger so we can see it. There you go. And in order to use a spreadsheet to control the text that I'm seeing, I need to go to the text properties and enable use plain text. That will make it so that I input my text right here. And that can be a limitation, I guess. But the benefit of that is that we now get our own generators and modifiers for the text itself. So I can go to the generators here and I can scroll up, because right now we're looking at the M's and those letters. I want bind to table, a bind to table generator. And so it's going to bind this attribute to a spreadsheet, the table. So I choose bind to table, and then everything goes black because it's like, I don't know what table you're talking about. So in the table area, I need to go to the generator and choose what table to use. And I've already imported spreadsheets into my project panel, so they show up right here. So I'm going to use soccer data, and it's referencing this spreadsheet, this soccer data spreadsheet. And this was set up properly. And so Autograph can recognize it. So what happens is the top of every column that you want to use in Autograph, it's going to expect the name of the column. So it's going to assume that this top column name, or this like top field here, is not actually data, but the name of the column to use. So you can see at the top here, we have championship, teams, abbreviations, points, sponsors. And then in Autograph, you could see in this column drop down here, let me just move this over, we have the same things: championship, teams, abbreviations, points, sponsors. So if I said teams, for example, then you're seeing the team that we have here at the top team in that first slot. And so I could choose the rows of the teams by adjusting the row index. And so I'm cycling through the names of the teams in this spreadsheet. And it's just that easy. No coding needed, nor anything like that. I just can't fathom this being implemented in an easier, more simple way than this. So if we go back to our project here that's a little bit more fleshed out and has more detail and stuff like that, I'll go ahead and open this up again. You can see now that it's using that spreadsheet to control all this data. So if we go over here to this control panel, which was set up by Francois, who created this project, what he's done here is linked several of these properties to just a few simple controllers at the top level of this composition, so it's easier to control. You don't have to dig through here and find these attributes for bind to table. And setting this up is a little bit beyond the scope of this tutorial, but I just want to show you that this is here to give you an idea of the power that you can use here. So the championship, I can change this. That changes the top of the championship. Nothing impressive there. But with Team A, what's happening here is, remember that we also have, for each team, we have abbreviations of that team and also points for that team. So what I can do here, and what's set up, is that all three of these things, the name of the team, the abbreviation, and the points for that team, are set up in and controlled by this Team A parameter. So as I adjust this one parameter, it's cycling through three different columns of that spreadsheet at once. Same thing with Team B over here. And we also have the sponsor at the bottom set up for adjustments as well with this control panel. Isn't that incredible? I think it's amazing. It's so simple and easy to set up and yet still so powerful. But it doesn't stop there because of the way that Autograph works with generators and modifiers. And the fact that this is a generator, this is not just some property or some attribute, some control or something. This is a generator that can be used in multiple places with generators. For example, in this other example that Francois created, we have the weather of France set up in and being controlled by a spreadsheet. So which icon to use and the position of each icon is being created by this spreadsheet. So the position X and Y for every icon, as well as this icon or this column, this number, which tells it which weather to use. So you can imagine how simple this would create very complex graphics because you could just save a change in the spreadsheet and it would update in your complex graphics. Another thing to note is that, again, because this is a generator, we're not seeing text being generated by a spreadsheet. We're seeing position data and which icon to use. It's very different. So if I go over here to my icon cloner, which is a cloner, which we'll talk about a little bit later, we have a cloner that's cloning all of these objects. And then in the cloner, we're telling it to bind the position to the table. So we're using bind to table on the X and Y position. What's really cool is that the position property of this instance transform, we have two values here. And then we also have two columns that we want to use with this one attribute. Well, what you can do here in the bind to table value is change the column span. And so when you change this from the default 1, which by default is going to just search only this one column, changing the column span to 2 says look at this column and the next column, which makes it really convenient for having X and Y coordinates so that you can actually have it read both of these and put those into your position property. So again, bind to table, extremely powerful generator, whether using it to control text, position, or other attributes.